Hey, I was going to work on my slate roof right now, but I just, for some reason, had this idea that I should grab the action cam and take a run around the homestead and see what's going on. I think there's some interesting stuff, but let's find out. It's a terrible apple year. This is Frankentree, and you can see there's like 3 bagged apples up there. Those are the apple that's labeled as Catherine on this tree. Excellent winter variety. Usually it's ripened like well, maybe late November, but I think of it as more a December apple. Excellent late hanging winter apple, very crispy and good. But that's it on the whole tree. There were a few random other apples, but nothing too exciting. People have asked about the bees, and they seem to be doing pretty good for a while, but they got raided. Basically, they were cleaned out by other bees and yellow jackets. I mean, at one point, I had blocked all of these holes right here, and only that hole was opened, and there were just bees pouring in and out of that one hole as fast as they could. Like if a hive gets too weak to defend itself for whatever reason, it could be disease, who knows, I don't know why, but they get too weak and other bees will just come and take all their honey. Basically, it's just a big old raiding party. So that went on for like 3 days of bees just pouring in and out of the hive, and then it all stopped. And these bees aren't going to make it through the winter, without food. You can see there's a bee sitting right here, so apparently there's still some bees. Is anybody home? It could just be that there's a few stray bees left alive that are kind of hanging around because they don't know what else to do. I mean, they're hive animals, right? They don't know what to do without the hive. This was my squash patch. As you can see, it's all frosted down now, but it did pretty good. I got a good harvest of squash out of here. And this is the nectarine tree here that I trained up in a couple other videos. And it was perfect. Everything was going great, and then some deer got in here and chewed off all the shoots and broke some stuff. I tried all summer to force it to start growing from the stubs that were left, but it just would not do it. There was only growth at the top, so I just cut the whole thing down and decided to start over. That's going to grow like crazy next year, though, and I should be able to get it back to where it was in a year, and it should grow even better because it has even more root under it this time. But yeah, that's just unfortunate. The deer just wrecked it, and I just could not come up with any tricks to force it to grow back the way I wanted it. This is grenadine, and I have to wonder how well grenadine does for anyone else in different climates, because it was originally bred in this climate, not very far away from here, and it ripens really in late November to early December is kind of how I think of it. And the red flesh doesn't really develop like the deep red flesh until quite a bit later. And along with that comes a lot more flavor. So I'd recommend anyone that grows it, just try to ripen it as late as possible on the tree and see what you can get away with. In many years, it's just the quality is very poor too, and it has a lot of like early drops. A lot of them get waxy, like this one right here that's bitten by a bug is ripening early, and it's probably going to fall off the tree, but it's never going to achieve like the ripeness that it should. Here's another one that's getting that waxy look. So some of them will get waxy and then they'll drop off the tree. Like that came off really easy, and there's hardly any pink flesh yet. I mean, relative to what it could be, it can be deep pink. This side has almost nothing, and it's a weird year for red-fleshed apples. A lot of them just don't have really red flesh yet. Well, there might be a meal's worth of saffron threads there. So this is what I was supposed to be working on today. I've been kind of distracted all morning with other stuff. I was just about to get started on here. The next job is to do a lot of small slate fitting along these edges right here, and then put the hip slates on. And there will be more videos coming on this project, doing the hip slates, and then maybe something on the cupola. And I do have some other ideas of other slate videos that I might throw together. So I'll be saving these grenadine seeds to throw in the mix. Actually, I'm going to keep them separate this year because so many people request red fleshed apple seeds specifically that I'm going to keep the grenadine and the pink parfait and the rubiots separate, or mix all of them together and have like a red fleshed seed medley or something like that. You can see how many red tags are on here. Those were all cross-pollinations that I made, but I did not harvest a single cross-pollinated apple off of this tree this year because the birds were so bad. I mean, look at this one, they hollowed out that one. I damaged almost every fruit on this tree. I just didn't get them bagged in time. This is why I want an orchard and garden manager. That's my dream, is to hire someone full-time to basically run all these orchard and garden projects, and a lot more, like a lot more research projects that I want to do, and I just cannot do them. It's just not going to be a very good year for intentional cross-pollinations. There are a few though. This one right here is an apple that someone sent me from Germany. Well, they sent pollen and seeds, but only the pollen made it. And this apple was ripe on the tree, hanging on the tree. He said it was still crisp in April, which is just incredible. So I got those genes to work with. Most of the cross pollinations I made with that variety did not take. So hopefully this isn't just a fluke and the pollen will work better this spring. Wow, that's kind of squishy. Let's try this one here. This is Hoople's Antique Gold. If I recall right, it's a sport of Golden Delicious, and it feels soft. It's all squishy, like dehydrated. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty good russet. It's pretty low in acid, extremely sweet, has pretty russety, classic kind of flavor. It is dehydrated partially, but it's not mealy or mushy at all. It's rubbery. And that's a thing that some russets just do. And a russet that does that after it's stored for a while and gets really squishy, like it'll be completely wrinkled on the outside and you can just massage it like a weird, I don't even know, chunk of something. I don't know how to describe it, but when you bite into it, it'll be weirdly rubbery and it will like break into chunks in your mouth, like big chunks. Really odd, but it's actually kind of fun to eat them, and they're really good with cheese, and the sugars get really concentrated because of the moisture loss. So yeah, this is a decent russet. I'm looking forward to eating more of these, especially with some aged cheddar, which I have a bunch of. Now I don't know what this is, but let's try it. It does look like it's a graft because there's wax here. Hereford russet. Well, whatever it is, it's not very good this year, but hopefully it'll improve. Now this is labeled as Catherine. I think this is probably the real Catherine from Albert Etter, named after his wife. Wow, that's really good. This is really good. This might be the best I've had these yet. The birds have pecked a lot of them, but there's still a lot hanging on the tree. And I think this is probably about the season right here. I think in the past I've waited too long to harvest these. If I recall, on the Greenmantle site, it might say that this was bred from Ananas Renette. Now that apple hasn't done well for me. This I've only tasted a few times and it just hasn't been super impressive, but I'm definitely more impressed with it right now. So yeah, it has a really rich, deep flavor. I want to say spicy, but I don't think it really is spicy, but it's deep and nuanced. Yeah, it's a deep well. It's interesting. I like it. So probably the best overall performing tomato this year was Zapotec, this one right here. And I already picked them all because the frost hit, so it looks pretty rough right now. But it did really well with late blight, which is great because that's a huge problem. Like Polish linguiça on the other end of this bed was totally hammered by late blight, and most of the tomatoes were lost. It affects the foliage like this. This is late blight right here, and it also affects the fruit. But on these, I didn't see any that I can recall. I don't think I saw any effects on the fruit, and only like moderate damage to the leaves here. So I'm really hopeful that Zapotec holds up to that and is resistant to late blight, because that's a really big deal. Now this variety directly right next to it had about the same level of blight, and it's supposed to be a resistant variety. And I think both of the resistant varieties looked really about the same as the Zapotec. I can still come out here and get these tomatoes that are just like starting to ripen. I thought I had got them all, but so I missed a few. And those will ripen up on the counter. There's one right there. Contrast the health of those plants to this sad looking vine with very few leaves left, and that's Polish linguiça. So it doesn't do too good with the late blight. I'm just going to leave these here along with my Catherine apple. And this is what quail do to your garden. So as you can see, I have tons of Trichocereus cactus left. Please order them. They're cheap. I think I have them down to like maybe $1.50 each or something. And then I have some selected out, like these are kind of the primo ones selected out of each of the different batches of seed that I have. So you can see those are growing much better because they're spaced out better in better soil. It really makes a difference to uncrowd them. So this is the open pollinated seed of a variety my friend calls the Queen. It's a really large barreled cactus. You can see how big they are. They're just on the average much bigger. And then these are the same variety, but not even necessarily as big as seedlings selected, but they're put into a deep pot and they're less crowded, and so they're just growing like crazy. But what's super cool is this. So this is a contorted seedling. So I've been propagating these, contorted cactus of this variety for a while, and this batch of seed is maybe as many as 2,500 seedlings this year, and 2 of them turned out to be this crested or contorted or crostata. There's a lot of different names, monstrose, but I'll show you what this will grow like. A lot of you have already seen those cactus, so that's super exciting. I get to grow out and name a new variety of contorted Trichocereus panachoi, or whatever you want to call it. Apparently the whole nomenclature of this genus and complex of species is rather complicated, and I really don't care about that stuff very much. But this one here is a cross between 2 different species for sure, which is Trichocereus, again, panachoi, or whatever you want to call it, the small thorn types, and a large thorned one called the Bolivian torch, Trichocereus bridgezii. Hard to say that. And this one actually isn't just a cross between the Bolivian torch and the Peruvian cactus. It's actually a cross between Peruvian and Bolivian, then crossed back to the Queen, number 10. Here's some cool cactus that I got for doing charcoal experiments. So the plan is to pot these up in pure charcoal and follow them for a few years. This has been growing in pure charcoal since it was about maybe this big, and it flowered this year, and it's producing all these pups, and it just seems super happy in that charcoal. So the experiment continues. So here's the Bite Me tree, and they aren't nearly as good this year as they have been in the past. I like the looks of this one. Let's try that one. It feels really light, like there's not a lot of water in them. The texture of this apple is very odd. Okay, so this is crossed with Sunrise, which is an early apple that's very crisp and kind of modern, crispy apple. All right, let's taste Bite Me. Well, the flavor is starting to come up finally. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, the flavor is finally coming up, but it's starting to get this kind of foamy texture now. It's a very tender apple. It's weird. It's almost like eating a different kind of fruit than an apple. Yeah, not the best Bite Me here, but it's still pretty compelling. I'm definitely going to finish that. Let's see, this is Waltana, and here's a Waltana Opelousas cross. Did I say Opelousas? This one doesn't appear to be a particular cross. Oh, yeah, it is. It's Pink Parfait. So I need to come out here and collect these up, because a lot of these are intentional cross-pollinations. They don't look like they ripen very well, but that could be because they're bagged. It's just a bad apple year. It's not just that there aren't that many. There's a Lady Williams cross. It's that the quality's not good. So these in here are both going to be Lady Williams crosses. So it looks like I'm going to have quite a few of these too. Waltana is a big favorite around here with a lot of growers and apple aficionados. It's another Etter variety, one that he actually named and released. Well, this has been one of my most intriguing seedlings. I was kind of disappointed in it at first, but it's grown on me quite a bit. And I also realized just how picky I get and how much I expect to get some kind of like perfect apple. Because at some point I realized that, hey, this is like, aside from maybe chestnut crab, Wixon, that's it really. This is the best crab apple I've ever tasted. Okay, so I mean, how down on it should I be if it's not perfect? It's got this pretty red coloration to the stem, beautiful red color, red flesh, some definite berry flavor, some of the Wixon attributes of this kind of deep malty flavor. These are probably just about right now. And I may pick a few of these and a few other things and send them to Kelly Moody to do an apple tasting podcast, because we're already going to do a podcast on apple stuff in general. I did a podcast with her last year, I guess, or the year before, on bark tan stuff, and it was really cool. Go check it out on the Ground Shots podcast. And we're going to do one on apples, and we were talking about maybe doing a supplemental section of that on apple tasting. So I would send her like a few samples of apples to try, and we would both taste them at the same time virtually, or she's in Colorado and I'm out here. We may do that, but I'm going to cover this up. Try not to knock it off. This seems to benefit from a late ripening. It's going to get more red flesh, deeper, richer flavor, more sugar. But I think those are probably about good right now. Well, I have one more exciting seedling to show you. Wait, what's this? I'm probably not going to do any tasting videos this year because there's so few apples in here. It's really, really slim this year. Let's try this. This is not Laxton's Epicure with grenadine, and I do not expect it to be good. Surprise me. Whoa! Wow, intense flavor. Wow, that is intense flavor. Hey, I'm going to take some notes on this one. So, whatever this apple is that I have labeled as Laxton's Epicure, but I'm pretty sure it's not, so I labeled it on here as not Laxton's Epicure. But whatever that original parent apple is, I used it in breeding because it has a pretty intense fruity, not really intense, but really good and distinct fruity kind of a flavor. And this has a very, very strong fruity flavor that I can't pick out any component that I could actually name. Yeah, but whatever it is, the flavor's outstanding. You know, it's very small, but this could change a lot under better cultural conditions, you know, on a real tree, growing out in the open with water and fertilizer and all that fun stuff that trees like, that I don't give them. But yeah, this is promising. Like, it's promising enough to take notes on. I will also take the seeds out of this and put them into the apple medley mix, because not only is this an interesting apple just genetically from like flavor wise, but it's crossing with all these other, you know, potentially with all these other red flesh crosses right in here. So in the next generation, it's even more likely to produce apples with red flesh. Wow. Wait, what's this? Oh, I did not label it. Drats. It feels soft. Hopefully it's not mealy. I shouldn't really even come out here without a notepad or something. Yeah, so this is interesting. I was watching this one. It looks like I should have picked it a lot sooner instead of letting it over-ripen and fall off. Whatever it is, let's try it. Okay. God dang it. Okay, very interesting. Number one, it's soft, it's squishy. What was I saying about the apples, that the russets that will get like dehydrated? It's wrinkly on the skin here. It's definitely squishy. Can you see it? Can you see how squishy it is? And it's not mealy at all. It's crisp / rubbery. This is a weird one. It has a little bit of pink flesh, very good flavor, very sweet, very interesting. Given that a lot of the red flesh apples didn't even really develop red flesh this year, or barely, this could develop a lot better red flesh. Now I'm just mad that I don't know where it came from, because as you can see, I actually went around with a Sharpie and bagged most of these apples and labeled them, I mean, because when they fall off, I don't know, what tree they came from. I'm going to take a look at this one right now. Oh, this looks intriguing here. Okay, so maybe we are doing apple tasting videos this year, because there are like 3 more apples I want to hit, and we'll do that another time. Okay, that's interesting. So this is a yellow apple that very much resembles grenadine. It's getting the waxy thing that grenadine does. It has the lobes that grenadine has. The bottom looks like a quince. And this is a cross between grenadine and chestnut crab. Huh. Well, I guess we'll taste that too. So there's at least 4 apples to taste in a separate tasting video, so we'll come back. I will also save this to revisit. I'm kind of thinking this is a golden russet cross because golden russet can get that rubbery thing, and this is very distinctively like that. So there's a chestnut crab maypole cross. I'll have to try that too. So yeah, I'll come back and do an apple tasting in the next couple days probably.